Hey y'all, what's up y'all? I'm gonna wait for a few more people to get on. I got a bad habit of digging in my scalp and I have to stop because all of my hair almost fell out and it'll do it again if I don't stop, y'all. So we have to be a community of help for each other. And I have a bad tendency to just dig and dig right in here. And if I showed y'all this part of my hair, like up close, y'all would see how thin it is and how much it's coming out. But that's another story for another day. Yes, Toya, please help me stop. I gotta stop doing that because all of my hair gonna be gone one day. So y'all, today's Trauma to Triumph episode is gonna be different than what you're used to seeing. Because today I was this close to canceling tonight's episode just because I'm tired. I don't even look like I normally do. I didn't feel like putting on clothes. I've been traveling. Road trips can be very, 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 very tiresome, right? So that's why I was debating about tonight. And then the young lady that I had, yes, Toya, it is. It's my nerves and stress that keeps me digging right here, and I gotta stop. So anyway, long story short, today's episode is going to be different because the young lady that I had scheduled to have a conversation with tonight about trauma to triumph, she had to reschedule, which is all good. But y'all stuck with me tonight. And when I first started doing this, I told you all along the way, I'll open up more about some of the traumatic things that I've gone through myself. So it's not always about the trauma that others have gone through. I can relate to a lot of the stories that I host because of the things that I've gone through myself. So thank you so much, Toya. Before I get into some things about myself, I wanted to reintroduce myself. Am I sitting too close to the camera, y'all? Let me back up. I feel like I'm too close. I feel like my face is all fat, double chins, triple chins. Do y'all ever feel like y'all just blah? Like I kind of feel like that, right? Blah. But I'm pushing through. So bear with me. I'm pushing through. So for those of you all who have never seen a Trauma to Triumph Tuesday Instagram Live, I'm your girl, Terry Long. I am the woman that is behind this Trauma to Triumph project. I started this way back in the springtime, I believe. Never done anything like this in my life before, but God put something in my heart. A long time ago, actually. He didn't just put this in my heart, but I actually executed and acted upon it earlier this year when I severed ties with my long-term job. So I figured God was trying to take these golden handcuffs that I had on me. That's what I called them. I stayed at a job that became something that I only did for the money. And I no longer want to do anything for money. I want to do what God puts in my heart. And whether it provides money or not is irrelevant, right? Yes, I do have to live, but I actually believe that God is going to continue to make sure that I live. And He's going to make sure that I live abundantly well, because this phase of my life is more about doing things that He puts in my heart, right? If some of you all knew the story about what I walked away from that job, the salary that I walked away from, y'all would be like, what the fuck was you thinking, Terry? I know most y'all would say that, so I'm not going to get into that story today. That's just another story for another day. So again, I get sidetracked a lot. I'm sorry, y'all. So I'm Terry Long. I am the woman behind the Trauma to Triumph project. And this project is about healing others through the sharing of our stories. I learned along the way, for me, that I started to be healed from things that I was going through or things that I had gone through. I started to heal when I would hear someone share a story with me that was either very similar or that was relatable in some other kind of way. So I started realizing that actually as important as mental health therapy is, because it is very important, it's another bucket where you should be tapping into to heal yourselves. But I found that sharing stories, real life, gut wrenching stories, sometimes stories that are not pretty, stories that don't make you feel good, stories that are embarrassing to tell, those types of things, when we share them, and we share them from a perspective of non-judgment, we share them from a perspective of, listen, this is what I went through, but look at me now. It's really just us being walking testimonies of the work that God can do in each and every one of us. Trauma means something different, can mean something different for everybody. And triumph, the same thing. Triumph for me, it just depends what we talking about, y'all, because triumphant for me could mean that I'm still alive. Triumphant for me could mean that I'm still able to be in love again after some traumatic things that happened. So it just could mean different things for different people. Yes, 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 yes. Pure spirit, you started healing by telling your stories to help others. Maybe you should come on Trauma to Triumph and tell your story to all of us, right? Because yes, telling our stories and sharing our stories openly and honestly and courageously can help others. And that's why I wanted to do this project. And so what you see on Tuesdays, I go live every Tuesday with, it's always been women up to this point, but I'm not opposed to men. And I'm working on my husband, y'all. You know, men have gone through things at the hands of women. Men have gone through traumatic things at the hands of their moms, at the hands of women they've dated. So I'm not opposed to getting a few men involved in this project along the way. But up to this point, it's just been amazing women of all ethnicities, all backgrounds, all ages, and sharing these stories have been powerful. And we do it every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you know of a woman who has a story that you want her to tell as part of this project, please have her email me. The email is info@trauma, the number 2, Triumph, DOC.com. And the website is up again, y'all. The website, I want y'all's feedback on the website too. Go look around. Of course, make sure if you have a story, you subscribe on the website so you can send your story there as well. And the website is www.trauma, the number 2, Triumph, DOC.com. Did I say the email right? The email is info@trauma, the number 2, Triumph, DOC.com. The website is www.trauma, the number 2, Triumph, DOC.com. So I'm looking for amazing, gut-wrenching stories of how trauma got turned into triumph. So please keep the stories coming in. Let's get things like popping, really. Like, we're going to heal millions of people, y'all, through the sharing of these stories. And guess what else? I have been able to film some of these stories. So I have some stories of women, y'all, that haven't been on this Instagram live because the stories were so like OMG-ish, where I'm saving it for the actual filming. We're filming in a studio. And the only way that I have been able to film in a studio is because you all have been helping me with your donations. So that's the next thing I wanted to get to. Trauma to Triumph, as with any type of thing that's going to be big, and this is going to be big, y'all. Bigger, okay? Let's think big. As with anything, I'm going to need more prayers, more brain power. Like, you know, I need people that are experts in, like, let's say post-production editing and things like that. But I also need financial resources. As with anything big, you know, you can't move to the next level without the money. And so the budget for this is tapped out, but I've been able to film because you have been sending me Cash Apps and PayPals. Praise God for you all. I'm like my tribe of friends and family and people. I've gotten cash apps from people who don't even know me personally because they believe in this project. Let me put that information here, y'all. I'm gonna put the donate, and and on the website now, go to www.trauma the number 2 triumph doc.com. You can donate right on the website now. You can use a credit card. It's a PayPal. It's safe. So please consider helping me take this project to the next level. I will be able to film again with more donations. I need to continue filming inside of a studio, which requires obviously a film team, a makeup person, all of that stuff, right? So your donations are really helping me expand this project and get it to the level that it needs to be so that when Oprah sees it, y'all, she'd be like, yes, I'll take that season 1 episode and season 2 and season 3. So that's what we're trying to do. So let me put in here, please consider, I'm typing in something, y'all, so please bear with me. Donating to this project. And the Cash App is that $ thing, y'all. I'm typing it in. $ trauma to the number 2 triumph. Okay. And then the PayPal is, PayPal is, wait 1 second. PayPal is, I think it's, what's my PayPal, y'all? Let me put this one for now because this is safe too. It comes to me. But I have on my website, I have a Trauma2Triumph designated PayPal. But these accounts are linked. So, and I'm going to pin this comment. So, listen. Okay. Yes, I just clicked on here and wow, God told me I will one day be able to tell my story on a bigger platform. Yes, you will. Start by coming and telling your story here with us, Trauma2Triumph. Yes, please do that. Let me know if you need a hair person. Yes, Toya, let's talk. Let's talk, honey. Let's talk. All right, so let's get into a little bit about me. There are lots of different points in my life that I plan to share. I'm actually writing a book. I've been writing this book forever, y'all. Y'all push me to finish it. Help push me because I've got like 280 some typed pages already. So if y'all know what 280 some typed pages looks like when you like write it out, it's a lot. And it's not done, but it is a lot of good stuff, right? So tonight, though, I want to talk to y'all about the trauma that I went through in my, I'm not going to name names. And because this person is still, a part of my life because we have grown children, right? We have grown adult children. This was my first husband. I married my high school sweetheart. So I was very, very young. I found myself 22, married, had the baby at 23. Well, I was almost 23 when I got married. So let me just back it up and tell y'all, my parents, y'all know I talk about my parents all the time. They've been together for 57 years. So they old school, right? And so, so much old school that I was afraid to tell my father that I was pregnant. So I was grown, but I was still living at home with them at the time. I was 22, I think. Yeah. So I told my mother and she agreed with me. She said, we can't tell your dad because you're not married. We can't tell him yet. You're going to have to get married. And I said, okay. So it wasn't your typical proposal. Like, again, it was my high school sweetheart. So yeah, there was love, obviously, that in love that you think that the world is going to end, that kind of love. When you fall in love at 14, 15 years old. And that's, pretty much the main thing that you know. And so I found myself married with a baby at 23 years old. I went and told him we got to get married because I can't tell my dad that I'm pregnant unless we marry. So that's what we did. He was like, okay, well, whatever. And so we got married And I think I was like 5 or 6 months pregnant, and I hid it pretty well up until right around then. Now, I still don't know, and I'll ask my dad. My dad is 93 now, but his memory is pretty sharp. I don't know if he ever kind of like knew. You know how sometimes parents just be knowing stuff and that you don't tell them. So I don't know if when he walked me down the aisle that day, this was like what, 30, almost 30. My oldest is 28, so like that meant that long ago, like 29 years ago. I wonder now, did my dad know? My mom didn't tell him. I know she didn't. And I didn't tell anybody else except her, because I had to keep it a secret until I got married. And then I told my dad. So anyway, he walked me down the aisle. I was about 6 months pregnant. And then I told him. I guess he's not dumb. So I guess he's like, let me do the math. So that's how all of that happened. And so I was very young. And my husband at that time was extremely young. So just imagine a 24-year-old man married to me, 23. I had to drop out of college, so I never finished college. And so trying to figure out life, right? And I grew up with two parents and very much under the teaching that unless a man is putting his hands on you, you don't leave. That's what I was taught from my mother. I never really talked to my dad about relationship troubles because my dad was a very much like a man. Like, I just always feared that, telling him anything could upset him. And I don't know, just sometimes shield your father from certain things. So, my mom would always just be like, unless he hitting you, anything goes. And so I kind of believed that for so long, y'all. And again, it's a lot of the stuff that I probably won't say will be in my book. But what I will say is that verbal abuse can be worse than physical abuse. I remember times where I would be saying to myself, I'd rather that he just punch me in my face than to treat me the way I was being treated back during those times. I went through so much verbal abuse where my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I dealt with infidelity to a point where I didn't tell y'all this part. So let me make sure I give y'all all the facts. Before I got married, before I got pregnant and before I got married, remember I said he was my high school sweetheart. So pretty much all I knew from like 14 years old to my 20s. But during that time, he got somebody else pregnant. This was before I got pregnant. So that was the first devastating thing that happened to me. And I felt like, damn, I've been a good girl. I waited to a long time before I broke my virginity. I felt like, you're supposed to save that for, someone that's going to be your husband. Like I was raised very old schoolish, right? You're supposed to save that for the person who you think is going to be your husband. And, I did that. And so I thought, when you do that and you're in love and you just, that's the only thing and I just wanted to have 6 kids and I wanted to just cook every day and raise kids. I really thought, if you look at my part deal and my senior will thing, at the back of the book, you write your senior will. It was all about marrying him, having all of these damn kids. I had the kids named and all that stuff. But then he went and started having a kid without me, right? So that was the first blow. And we kind of like broke up for a while. I think when that happened, I think I was about 19. And I was so devastated, y'all, because, I was just like, damn, like for real? Like I saved my virginity for you. And if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have even graduated from high school because I used to go with my little Chevy Nova and pick him up every day, because if I didn't, he would have stayed his ass in the bed somewhere and not even finish high school. So I felt like, I don't know, I felt like, how could this happen? So at that point, I started feeling like, she not going to win. Meaning the girl he got pregnant, she had the baby. And so here I am. And she named the baby. And I love this. I love her. I love her. She's an adult woman now. So I love this woman, this young woman. But her mom, who is deceased now, rest in peace, named the daughter what I was planning to name my first daughter, if I had a daughter by him, right? So, y'all, I was so devastated with this whole entire thing, but not devastated enough to leave his ass alone for good. So I left him alone for a little while until I got over the hurt. And then I was determined to win. Like, win. What was I winning? But I was determined to win. I was like, she not going to have him. Yeah, she had a baby first, but I'm going to win him. So I'm like 19, 20 though. So I got over the hurt. We get back together. And then, so now I caught y'all up. Then I get pregnant, dropped out of college. I was always working now. I've been working since 14. So I was always making money and all that kind of stuff. So then once I'm pregnant, got married, told my dad. So remember, he got an older daughter now. So he already got a baby. And we about to have a baby. I don't think I knew the sex at that. I didn't find out what it was. So it was a surprise. The pregnancy started off tumultuous because once again, he started, having extracurricular activities on me. I'm a pregnant woman, okay? I done dropped out of college. I got us a townhouse and was going to make this family thing work. Like my mother said, as long as he don't hit you, anything else goes. And I believed that for a while. So throughout the pregnancy, I dealt with things that I don't think a pregnant wife should have to deal with. Things like not coming home 2-3 nights. And I would say things like, well, we're married, so aren't you supposed to tell me? He would say things like, you're not my mother. I don't have to report to you. Oh, okay. Well, my mother told me as long as he's not hitting you, then anything goes. So that was okay. I was like, okay, well, that's how this goes. I remember crying so much at home, y'all, with being pregnant and just crying all the time. Looking out the window of the townhouse, thinking, okay, he gonna come home today. Where he at? Just stuff like that, right? So then I have the baby. It's a beautiful baby girl. Y'all know my oldest daughter, Tiara. She's 28. Beautiful daughter. And I will say, he was a great father. I can't even take that away from him. When I brought the baby home, he got up in the middle of the night because I had a C-section. He got up in the middle of the night. He did all of those feedings and all of those things. And, but shit, I felt like after all I had gone through with this person up to this point, you should get up every time. So, but he did. He did. But I felt like he should have. So, even like I said, y'all, throughout the process of being pregnant and stuff, I would have women call my house and give me their stories. I remember one night, he didn't come home the first night. And so then the second night, when he finally came home, he came straight up the steps and all he had on was his underwear. So I'm like, what the hell? This is weird. Where are your clothes? And so, of course, I probably got cussed out for asking. I would get cussed out for all kinds of stuff. But I just couldn't let it go because I'm like, who comes home with just their underwear? I went and looked in the car for this man's clothes. And I don't know why I just needed to know where the clothes was. Because what's that's going to do? I don't know. I'm just giving y'all the story. Long story short, I found the clothes in the furnished room all the way down in the basement. But the shirt had lipstick on it and all this old kind of stuff. So I guess he figured, let me just go stash these clothes because I don't want her to, or whatever. So that turned into another nightmare of a situation. I got cussed out for finding the clothes. I got cussed out for asking about the clothes and the lipstick and all of that. But I remember my mom saying, if he ain't putting his hands on you, then anything goes. So guess what? That got allowed too, y'all. So, let's see, 2 years after having my first child, I got pregnant again. Not because I was so in love. I was still kind of in love. I don't know what it was at this point. But again, my high school sweetheart, being that young and being taught that, as long as a man is not beating you up, you just supposed to be okay with whatever. Now, mind you, at this point in my life, I had gotten us a house. I was pretty much paying for everything at the house, trying to help him stay to straight and narrow, trying to keep him from having other women, trying to keep him having a job so he can help me, trying to just make his life better. All while, now I'm pregnant again. I wanted another child, though, because I remember how my sister and I grew up. And we grew up best friends. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my sister. Like, she has always been like my other person, even though we're so different. We're so different. But I didn't want my daughter to grow up without what I had. And so I wanted to give her a sibling. So I was trying to get pregnant. So I wasn't still having sex with him after getting cheated on numerous times, STDs, staying out all night several times, getting cussed out because I would say, where you been? Getting cussed out because you got lipstick on your clothes. Getting cussed out because I asked why this girl called, why these women called. Getting cussed out for everything, right? This stuff is still, some of it still bothers me to talk about because I'm leaving out things, right? It's in the book. It's going to be in the book. I'm leaving out stuff that y'all would be like, what the fuck? Because, like I say, I'm over it. And he's still a person that's in my life, and still a person, to be honest, that even after everything that I, over time revealed to y'all that I went through, I would still do something if I had to, or if I was needed to, like, do something to help this person. I would still do it. Because I'm just that type of woman. I would still do it because I want to please God, not human beings. So now where are we in the story? Where we at, y'all? Help me get back on track. So now I'm pregnant with my second child. And I knew it was a girl, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell him. That pregnancy was so tumultuous. Y'all think the first pregnancy was hard? That second one? When I tell y'all, this boy took me through so much stuff during the second pregnancy, and he would say things like, well, you the one who want to be having all these kids, not me. Now, this is my second pregnancy. Oh, in between these two pregnancies, I'm very candid because this is all things that causes trauma and low self-esteem, right? I got pregnant after I had my first child. And this is my first time ever talking about this openly, publicly, or anything. After I had my first child, I got pregnant when they say you're supposed to wait or whatever, because I wanted to have another baby. I wanted my kids to be close. Well, I did get pregnant too soon. They had said my C-section had caused Tiara's pregnancy, had me in labor for like 23, 24 hours. So when they did the C-section, she was in distress and all this old stuff. But anyway, my body had gone through a lot. And I got pregnant too soon. So I had an abortion. And plus he was saying, I don't want no more kids. 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 So I got an abortion. Then I got pregnant with Tyler. by then I was just like, well, he don't want no more kids, but I do. And I've been taking care of the first one, so I'll take care of the second one. Meaning financially. He did do a lot of stuff around the house for those kids. So that's what I'm telling y'all. I can't take that part away. He was a horrible husband. And I'll tell him this to his face. He knows it. He was a horrible husband, but he was a good dad to those babies. He really did. He did a good job when they were babies. I can't even lie about that. But the things that I went through when I was carrying my second one, Tyler, I kept thinking and feeling that she was going to come out being a depressed baby, because I was so depressed and I cried so much all the time. I was just like, why does he not want me the way I want him? Why does he not want to be here and be a family and be loving? Why does he want to still do all of the things that he was doing? And I discovered a lot of things about my whys later in life that I'll tell y'all. It's in the book, but I'll tell y'all later in this project too. I can't tell it all in one night. It's already 9:00. So I learned why, and I got more of an understanding about him and his behavior later in life. But during this time, I'm still in my young 20s trying to figure it out. And I still just hear my mom saying, as long as he not putting his hands on you. So you could be called a motherfucking bitch. You could be called all kinds of stuff. You can be given, like I say, STDs. You can be cheated on. You can be all of these things can happen. But my teaching was, you stay. I'm like, damn, this not adding up. Because now I got 2 kids. And I'm like, so I got to pay the bulk of the bills. I got to deal with being cussed out regularly. And I have to deal with habitual cheating. But as long as he's not putting his hands on me, it should be okay. Something just started not setting well with that with me. Because I'm like, it's too many offenses. Meaning like, you can't not pay the bills, not be faithful, and not be nice. There's no good penis like that in the world. It's no one. I've never had one that you can just not have no money. You can be unfaithful, and you can be mean. This is too much. So when my youngest was about 6 months old, so I had a toddler and a baby, I started putting my plan in action. I started figuring out, all right, I gotta grin and bear it for a while, because I have to figure this out. Because again, I'm going by what my mama told me, and I see how my mom and my aunties, they would deal with stuff with their husbands that would be unheard of, and just, but like my mother would always say, well, your father paid the bills and he don't put his hands on me and he come home every night. That's what she would tell me about my dad. So she knew that my dad had extracurricular activities here and there or whatever. But she always would say, he ain't putting his hands on me, and he paying these bills, and he come home every night, and he a good dad. So in my situation, I was like, well, I don't have all of those things going on. And if I did, I probably would have dealt with the verbal abuse, just the abuse. The only thing that didn't occur is he didn't put his hands on me. He never did. Not one time did he ever push me, shove me, or put his hands on me. But baby, let me tell you, some of the words that he used and just the disposition when using those words, or just the blatant disrespect, I would sometimes I used to be like, Lord, I'd rather that he just beat me up. If he could just beat me up and be nice to me, that would work. If he could just hit me instead of treating me so, just, you know what I mean? I was willing and was actually praying for that to be my outcome. But he never did. But I didn't continue to listen to my mother. It was so traumatic for me internally that it turned me into something I never that God didn't make me to be. So my trauma from my early 20s, being married like in a situation that I was in, caused me to be what some people might call a thought. Let's just be real. And what I mean by that is that I started to, I guess that's no other way to put it. Because I felt like I needed to find somebody that would just love on me and just love me. Like I had loved him. And so I started, you hear this cliche all the time, but it's true, it happens, looking for love at all the wrong places. And I wasn't divorced, but in my heart, I was. Like, I felt like, well, I can't end this right now because I don't have it all figured out. I have no idea what to do. Like, I knew how to pay the bills on my own, but I just didn't know how to face life as a single person because I had never seen that. My parents, again, been together 57 years now. My mother put up with everything. So I didn't have a blueprint for how do I do this. Because my mama said I ain't even supposed to be doing this because he ain't putting his hands on me. So I started just having a plan. That's when I made it. I was working at Pepco. I'll never forget this. I was working at Pepco. I started working there when I was 19. So that was my job even when I was in college. And I started saying to myself, okay, I'm going to have to make more money. I was paying the bulk of the bills, but his extra cash was helping me with, certain things. So I was like, okay, I got to make up for that. So before I bust a move, I got to have my stuff right. So I was smart when it came to that kind of stuff. And so I went along with the whole, we still was, like a little family, take family pictures. But in my heart of all hearts, I was divorced. So I started doing me. I'm like, me too. I started the Me Too movement back then. So that's what we doing? Okay, so now Me Too, then shit. Me too. I didn't have a realization for a self-worth though, because I feel totally differently about how a woman is supposed to handle her body now than I felt back then. I'm just, sharing with you all just the honest truth about a very traumatic period in my life. So I started to, do things that were out of character for me. So you all can read between the lines on that. He taught me how to do it, right? He showed me. And so I remember, and these are things that I regret. I remember seeing a man that was in a situation like me, meaning he was saying, I don't really F with my wife like that. We separating and all of that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I started, getting my stuff in order. And I started liking this other man so much that I was just like, okay, well, I can make this transition pretty easily. Now that I got my money. Oh, back up. I stopped working at Pepco and went to Freddie Mac. I did a career change because I said, I'm going to have to put myself on a career track that's going to make me way more money. And so while I was making more money than most of my friends who were in the government, because I was in private industry, Pepco was private, I was making more money than most of my peers who had stayed in their government jobs. I needed more. And so I transitioned from Pepco to Freddie Mac. And that was hard on me because I had two small kids and I was working out in McLean, Virginia, living in Forestville, working out in McLean, Virginia. But I had to do it. And so once I was working at Freddie Mac, I was working there for maybe 2 years. And I had my little, situation. And one day, it wasn't even an argument, y'all. One day, I came home from work and I had decided this is it. I had gotten cussed out one too many times. And this last time, he cussed me out because the kids had a sleepover with their little cousins. And I had let all of the kids, they were like, they were all little. I let them take a bath in the tub together. Well, because I got 4 little girls at a sleepover, I didn't remember to go clean out the tub. Why did I do that? Because I got cussed out when he saw the tub and the tub was still dirty and had toys in it. Oh man, I was the most trifling, dirty bitch and all of this old stuff. And so I didn't fuss back. I just made up in my mind, this is it. So I went to bed. I think we might have even had sex that night. That's how good I was able to go along with it. The next day though, because I needed to make sure that he was thinking that everything was cool. So the next day, I went to work like normal, but I came home early from work when I knew he wasn't going to be home. And I started packing his stuff in trash bags. And when he got home, I said, you got to leave. I was very calm. I said, you have to go. This is over. He's like, what the fuck you talking about? He went in the bathroom, started shaving like I hadn't said anything. I said, you have to leave. This is it for me. And he's like, what the, like all of this old stuff. And I didn't give any explanations or anything. I didn't say much more after that. I was just like, I'm very dead ass serious. So of course, because I'm very meek and mild mannered type of person, he started doing the rah and all this old stuff. What you gonna do? Put me the fuck out? Call your daddy? All this old stuff. And I was just like, I didn't say anything. So I was like, I can't physically put him out. What am I gonna do? So the next day, I called his father. Rest in peace to his father. That's my father-in-law for life. But rest in peace to him. I called him and I told him. And he said, don't worry about it. Drop his stuff off over here. And I'll make sure that he gets out. And he did that. He said, I don't know how he made his son leave. But he made his son leave. And that was the first day of my new life as a single mom. I spent a lot of time throughout that process crying. I was such a sad, depressed person, and I felt worthless because once that happened and I told my little situation, I was like, well, I'm freed up now, so, this, that, and the other, sometimes you can stay over here. He was like, oh, wait, you broke up with your husband? I was like, yeah. He's like, wait, hold. I didn't want us to do that. So that was more trauma for me. And a big, huge lesson learned. You never leave a situation with a crutch depending on another one. Never do that. So I learned that as well. That situation, my situation eventually dissolved on its own because, again, I started doing some crazy things during that time of my life. I was with the Me Too movement, and I pulled up over his house one day, and he had somebody else over there, and it just turned into a whole mess. So, after that scenario with my situation, I left that alone too. I was like, you know what? You go over there with your estranged wife or whatever. And I meant what I said with that too. So when I asked my husband to leave and he finally left, I never, ever, ever went back to him. I never went on a date with him again. Nothing. When I said it was over, when I finally did, I never, ever dabbled back. I never reconsidered. I never had another discussion about our marriage. It was over. And so, yeah, I lived a life in that period of my self-esteem was so low. I didn't know it, but it was. I would, meet guys. I would have sex with them, looking for love. I remember sometimes like not even responding to the man the next day or the next week. And they would be like, you just gonna do that with me, and then you not gonna talk to me no more. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't, like, if I didn't feel a connection, because remember, I'm looking for love. I'm not looking for sex and penis. I'm not really looking for that. That was just what I thought. I thought that was the way, you know, to a loving relationship. And so I would do that. And that's why I labeled myself. I say, I had a little period of time where I was like a thought, because I wasn't dealing with multiple men at the same time. I've never been like that. But I did bounce around because I would, be looking for love in all the wrong places. And then if I didn't feel nothing, I would just be like, I won't answer the phone no more. I've had men talking about, I'm going to drive my car through your window if you don't answer the phone. All kinds of craziness during that time period. But what I learned, y'all, because it's 9:15 and I got to wrap this up. And yes, it's a lot of stuff in between that happened that we'll talk about throughout the rest of this Trauma to Triumph project, because it's going to be something that's going to go on for a while. But when I look back at that time, I do realize that the verbal abuse and the disrespect and the habitual cheating and just all of that stuff being done to me while I'm carrying babies and stuff, it really did something to me and how I felt about myself. I felt like I felt worthless. I felt like nobody is really going to really, really love me. Nobody is going to want a woman who has 2 small babies, who's divorced, who has gone through some of the things that I had gone through in that situation. I felt like nobody was going to want me. Nobody was going to want to take on that baggage. I was wrong, clearly, because, my life continued. But I'm just sharing the trauma of a bad relationship. And abuse doesn't just mean somebody putting their hands on you. My mom is a wise woman, and I love her. Y'all know how much I love my mother. But I don't agree with the teaching that when you get married, unless he's putting his hands on you, you're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to accept anything unless he's putting his hands on you. I just don't agree with that. And I wish that hadn't been taught to me. Because I believe if I had someone instilling in me the things that I know now, that it took me almost 50 years to learn, that I probably would never. Y'all know that my first husband's mom, who I still love and adore, she told me when I was probably, when I said we were getting married, she called me Terry Ann. She said, Terry Ann, are you crazy? You gonna marry my son? She's like, I love him, but you so sweet. And I was like, yes, I am. So I said all that to say that when you are that young love, sometimes it lasts, but for me, it caused me a lot of trauma. And if I had someone sewing into me something a little different about knowing your worth and knowing, who you are as a woman, as a young queen, you don't have to tolerate violations to your body, violations to your spirit. You can set certain boundaries for yourself. So I could have saved myself a lot of trauma back then if I had the right lessons. And so a part of Trauma to Triumph is to provide the wisdom that we've gained through our own experiences. That wasn't a great experience for me at all. And it was hard to even talk about. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, my stomach is in knots. And I'm surprised that I am not bawling in tears right now. But I think there's a huge part of me that is really dead when it comes to that situation. It died. I still care about that person. Of course, it's my children's father. And I never want to see any out, even during that time, because he was such a good dad. I never, said any of this stuff to anybody. I don't even think I think maybe his mom knows some of it, but yeah, I protected him because I didn't want his children to feel a way about him. I didn't want other people to feel a way about him, because outside of being a husband, he's a cool person. A horrible husband, but a cool person who would always come to my defense. And it was like this weird type of love. Like, somebody love you to death, but they don't know how to treat you right. And that's what that was. That's what that was. I've learned a lot of things about that situation, a lot of things about myself, a lot of things about relationships, and a lot of stuff about young love and how to distinguish between that and a godly love that we as women and as men too deserve. You deserve a certain type of love. You deserve to be loved a certain type of way, and that's what God wants for us. Now, I will say this: had I known and had a relationship with God that early in my life, everything would have been different. Everything. But it's never too late. So I'm here now today to be able to talk openly about the trauma that I went through as a young woman, getting married so young and marrying, your high school sweetheart. Like I say, it does work for some. It's a small percentage of those who get married that young and it works forever. And for those who it has worked for, kudos. But it didn't work for me. I ended up getting that divorce. I did all of that on my own. I paid for the divorce. He never even showed up in court. I didn't take him for child support. I'm not that type of girl, because he always was a good dad. I never had to take him for child support. When we divorced, he never missed a weekend with his daughters. He picked them up on his schedule like clockwork. He never missed a weekend of getting his daughters. He was always the fun parent who would always do fun stuff with them, like King's Dominion and all that shit I wasn't doing, because I was the one that was grinding, working 2 jobs, and I did take them on vacations and stuff like that. So I would do those types of things. I exposed my kids, my daughters. I had a double stroller. I put my babies, one of them was a toddler, one was the double stroller, and we would be at the airport going to wherever. I took my daughters wherever I was going. So they did have exposure to a lot of those things, but he maintained his good fatherhood throughout while I was raising them. And I have to say, I wouldn't have been able to instill certain things in them that he did. So again, I'm saying the trauma that I went through as a wife was bad, really bad. And it impacted me because I would always say, he turned me into a woman at one point in my life that always had to have a plan B. How many of y'all know what that means? After that situation, I always had a plan B. So I always had, someone like, just in case. But let me tell you, the woman that I grew into be, I started developing self-worth. And this is after I started having a relationship with God, which is very late in life, like 50 years old, right? I'm 52. I'm just keeping it real with y'all. I have a whole different outlook, though, on who I am as a woman. And I've learned that if you make God your plan A, there will never be a need for a plan B. And what I mean by that is, once I learned to have a relationship with God, what Stan does, my current amazing husband, what he does with his penis or whatever he does with his whatever, that ain't on me. It's not up to me to be like, well, I'm going to do this too. No. I have a plan A. My plan A is to please God. And to please God means I'm going to be an amazing, devoted, loyal wife regardless of what my husband says or does. It's a big difference. And again, this time around in my life, my marriage is way different. I feel like this is the first time that I've really been truly in love. And I'll explain what that means on our next episode. But it comes along with growth and things that I had to learn. And in this marriage now, I had to grow up. Like the first several years of my marriage now, we've been married 5 years. This person that you see now has been developing over the last year. I didn't get a lot of this stuff until now. And so, listen, I can't put enough emphasis on the importance of knowing who we are as women based on who God wants us to be, who He designed us to be. And when you know that, there's nothing that your husband can do or say that should cause you to change who you are. So, if you're being cheated on, that's not a free card to be like me too, because you should still treat your body as your temple. And there should not be no Me Too cards when it comes to doing things like that. So I hope that my story has been relatable to someone else. If you all want to chat about it some more, you want to chat with me one-on-one, ask me more about it. I truly don't mind. Because this whole movement is about helping each other. It's about being relatable to each other. Who you see now as this married woman doing Trauma to Triumph isn't who I've always been. I haven't always been this put together. I just got this stuff. This is, you know what I mean? But I couldn't be this without a relationship with God. And that's the biggest thing for me. All of the things that I've gone through made me who I am today. And I wouldn't be able to have the experiences, the wisdom gained, the lessons learned without the things that I've gone through. I wouldn't be able to tell others about it and hopefully be able to prevent younger women from making those same mistakes that I made. So, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Trauma to Triumph Tuesdays. I hope that this has been a great conversation. I haven't had an opportunity to look at any comments, so I don't even know. I have to go back and go and look at some of you all's comments for tonight. But I just want to thank you for being a part of something so amazing. And thank you so much for your Cash App donations and for your PayPal donations. You can go to the website and make a donation as little as $5. That helps. I'm grateful for it all, because that's the way that I've been able to keep this train moving. And so I appreciate it. My Cash App is the $ Trauma, the number 2 Triumph. And again, you can go right to Cash App, go right to PayPal, or you can do it on my website, www.trauma, the number 2 triumph.doc.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, and I will be back again next Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, y'all. Have a great week. Let's heal and change the trajectory of millions by the sharing of our stories of how we transition from trauma to triumph.